God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. He's done good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. Sometimes He has set me free. I feel so good. God has smiled on me. Oh yeah. Good to me. One more time. God has smiled on me. Every day of my life, I feel it. You give me strength and energy. God help me to sing. He's been good to me. Oh yeah.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton of Brooklyn, New York. I've been traveling around the country talking to the radio announcers, the church people, and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body, if He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. And I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King saying,
God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me.
then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepped into the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God done smile on us.
Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say it real slow. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Pick it up.
All right, sir, you're live.
It's Thursday, June 26th. Do you know what time it is? It's Al Sharpton's time. And for the next 3 hours, it's time to put aside all pretenses, deception, denial, or fronting. The time has come to keep it real on Keeping It Real with Reverend Al Sharpton. A very good afternoon to you all across the country, and good morning to our West Coast listeners, and welcome to those listening on Sirius XM, Channel 126, The Urban View, where talk empowers and becomes action. I'm coming to you live from our National Action Network corporate headquarters in New York, and for the next 3 hours, you can call in and join the conversation. All you have to do is call us at 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, or you can go to our message page at www.nationalactionnetwork.net and go to live stream and send us a message on the message page. Billy Watson is saying on the message page, afternoon, Reverend Sharpton, no justice, no peace. And Happiness Donuts says, do you know what time it is? Keep it real. And Cassandra, hi, Reverend Al, okay. And I think Melissa Hamilton says she can hear us. Everybody else hears us. So you got to check out your side, Melissa. All right, we got a lot to talk about. Many of you that follow the news, we need to talk about this kind of misinformation around the Iran attack that the Trump administration took credit for, the Iran nuclear sites, about 10 days ago. And the question was raised, was this mission successful, and how may these actions impact everyday Americans? Now, the sources are reporting that Trump's budget received from the House certain information. And he didn't disclose what they did or what they intended to do to the Congress. There's some disputes on whether some of the uranium was moved before the attack, and whether or not the attack really made them having a capacity to build atomic bombs or nuclear weapons was just delayed or eradicated. Because the first reports that Trump was trying to sell us is that it had been eradicated, and that seems to not be the case. So let's talk about that. You know, he's very good at trying to sell things that does not exist, or at least does not exist to the extent that he says. Secondly, the Senate has trimmed down, as reported, Trump's big, beautiful bill. And we need to know the pros and the cons and which way we need to deal with that. And I think that the Iran is claiming victory after U.S. strikes and moves to cut ties with nuclear watchdog Hindenburg uranium monitoring efforts. Interesting why they would choose to do that now. And most Americans oppose the U.S. strikes on Iran. As MAGA supporters line up with Trump, the public opinion of Iran airstrikes, according to a new NBC survey monkey poll, 45% of Americans opposed President Trump's airstrikes on Iran. 38% supported, and there's a concern about further action. And there is a big article in the New York Times about with Zoran Mamdani winning the Democratic primary without the majority of black voters. Where does that leave black voters? And they quote a lot of us as saying that, well, black voters knew Cuomo, and you had 3 blacks in the race. But I tell you one thing for certain, and that is that they can't win without black voters, and it's going to be a race. You're going to have Mayor Eric Adams on the independent line, possibly Cuomo on the independent line unless he pulls out. And you're going to have Curtis Sleever, the founder of the Guardian Angels, is on the Republican line. Now, already you see President Trump is attacking Mamdani as a communist and all kind of stuff. They're going to try to use him because he's a self-described democratic socialist. They're going to try to use him as the poster boy of Democrats now, that they're all communists. And there are those that say we should be working with progressives. There are those that are saying we should not work with progressives unless we know what they're progressive on. I say that we need everybody's hands on the table. We need to have open hands on everybody. And I think that it is appropriate to ask people what it is they are going to be about. They're going to execute. What are they going to do if we put them in power? Everybody does that. Every community does that. Why wouldn't the black community ask those questions? So we have a lot to talk about, all of that and more. And, of course, it is Black Music Month. And I've been taking your songs and your artists every day that you want to recount, remind people of, and tell us why the song and the artist meant something to you. I was really moved yesterday when one of the callers mentioned Etta James, because I preached her funeral, and the caller didn't know that. And it brought back memories of Etta James. Not that I was as close to her as I was others. I had met her a few times, but her family wanted me to do the eulogy. But what brought it back to me is my mother was a big Etta James fan. Today is the birthday, 1958. A child was born in Gary, Indiana, called Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson's birthday is today. I knew him well. I also preached his funeral and did the eulogy at his burial. Probably one of the top gifted artists that I've ever seen, and a real good person that took a lot of attacks, took a lot of accusations, but somehow it didn't affect his artistry and his musical genius and his wanting to do something for people. It was Michael that did the biggest album of all times, We Are the World, where the money went to charity. It was Michael and Quincy Jones that did that and conceived of that together, and so much more. And you that are on live stream, that's Michael at National Action Network's headquarters. When he came to New York, he came uptown to a Saturday morning rally. And that's him on the stage with me. You that are on our live stream can see that is Michael at our headquarters. So I want to wish a happy heavenly birthday to the king of pop, Michael Jackson, my friend. Let's take a break and we'll be right back. Start going to the phones. and reading some of your messages. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, twitter.com, The Rev Al. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton. Be right back.
We've reduced a lot of our ministry to entertainment. Or who can hoop the loudest, who can run around the pulpit more, or who got the dresses fancy, and don't deal with the ministry. Jesus healed more people than he preached to. Because there is in the healing your message. They followed Jesus because he healed a woman with the issue of blood. They followed Jesus because Jesus saw a blind man named Bartimaeus. A lot of us would have dismissed him because he was a broke, poor, homeless, a blind man. How you know he was broke, Reverend? Because they say he was begging. But he understood what he was doing because he heard that Jesus was passing by. And when Jesus got close enough, he said, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. They kept telling Jesus, let's go, look, we got a schedule, we got people to see. He said it again, Jesus, son of David, come see about me. And when he did it the third time, Jesus stopped and went and healed the blind man. Now, what I get out of that scripture, Bishop Daughtry, is that the blind man told Jesus, if you are who you say you are, you're going to stop and see me. Yes, sir. And if you stop and see me, you will confirm who you are. Yeah. But when we are pastoring and leading in communities with bad health, we cannot be the followers and representatives of Jesus and walk by people that are sick and we not be part of making them well.
I had a thought this morning that I wanted to share with you about mentorship. I am able to do a lot of what I do because I had great mentors, but there are correct ways and incorrect ways to mentor people, in my opinion. I was mentored as a boy preacher by Bishop F.D. Washington, one of the great Pentecostal preachers of his time. Then Reverend William Jones became my pastor after Bishop Washington died, who was unquestionably in the top 5 black church ministers, theologians. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who I started my activism under his leadership, he and Reverend Jones. And I learned politics directly as a youth director from Shirley Chisholm. So even though I didn't finish college, I had the most unique education in the world from being exposed to giants. But the one thing I learned is as I grew older and people started coming younger than me and wanted me to teach and mentor them, the magic of the mentors I had is they did not want me to be their clone. They wanted me to learn things from them and use my own gifts and talents in my own unique way and let me do things on my own, because they knew that if I flopped in some things, it would teach me for the other things. They'll come and help me once I was down, but they were not going to have me avoid being down. And they were not going to impose themselves on me.
Why am I saying that? Because too many mentors want clones, and too many mentees want their mentors to put them on the pedestal. Oh, so-and-so didn't do this for me. Oh, so-and-so didn't open doors for me. If they got to open doors for you, it may mean that they knew you weren't ready to go through those doors. Their job is to prepare you. Your job is to develop your own skills, your own unique ways. And I don't care if it's my daughters, who both have come into their own, or anyone else. I'm not a talent agent. I did not form National Action Network to give people their step up. I formed it to fight for justice for everybody. If talented people get in, it's my job to invest and give them a platform. It's their job to get on the platform and perform and show their ability. Sitting with me today in the office as I talk about is one of my mentees, Reverend Stephen Marshall. Now, Stephen, you just came around us when you were how old?
11 years old.
11 years old. You just turned 40 and now you're called to the ministry?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do in National Action Network?
I help formulate policies, lead in various regions, but most importantly, I senior advise you on all things from social justice strategies, politics, intergovernmental affairs, you name it, community organizing, all of that stuff.
And I could go through scores of others. My daughter started Huddle. They got Huddles now, which is for young people to meet once a week all over the country. I just saw the video from the Las Vegas National Action Network chapter. Now, when you decided to preach, did I ever tell you to become a preacher?
Not one time.
Who called you to preach?
The Lord.
All right. And did I say go to this school or that school?
No, sir.
Did I open this door, that door? Did I tell you be ready when the doors open?
Always be ready and prepared.
And that's what I'm saying. Get you some young people than you that you can help along the way. But don't be their talent agent. Their talent must speak for themselves. And anybody that grumbles with you about so-and-so didn't do something for them, maybe it's because they didn't feel you were ready, or that they felt if they did it, you wouldn't do it on your own. But we all don't live forever. I want the next generation to speak of me, of National Action Network, and others, the way I speak of Reverend Jones and Bishop Washington and Shirley Chisholm and Reverend Jackson. But I just don't want young people to feel that somebody ought to give them the reins of leadership or give them the reins of business or whatever it is you're in. You need to learn from their journey, get the pearls of wisdom from them, but don't have them do for you, because then it means you can't do it for yourself.
Rev, you know you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that
Yep.
was going on in Brooklyn at
Yep.
that time, at
Yep.
Howard Beach. And you were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. We've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene you saw
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that scene?
Probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair,
Yeah,
man.
you had the head on.
Yeah, it was.
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut. We went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch, don't forget our announcements every Saturday and Sunday. Make sure you watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on MSNBC. We've got a lot coming at you this weekend, and certainly I'm going to deal with everything from Iran to the whole question of what it means for the progressives with the win of Ma'am Danny in New York primary. It's a lot to talk about this Saturday. And I want you there. And I want you to be watching. And I want you to be aware of what's going on. Let me... adjusting my screen. Let me go ahead and start with Ray. Ray from Cincinnati. Ray, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Yes, sir, Rev. How's it going?
Pretty good.
Rev, a couple things. Well, let me ask you this. These ICE agents that were caught beating this ex-military man who has, 2 or 3 sons that's on in active duty, why is and what you saw with him on the ground there beating him, why isn't that illegal?
I don't think it is. I think it is illegal.
You think it's legal how they can
It
beat
is.
somebody
I'm
like
saying
that?
I think it is illegal.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I don't see why there's not an uproar from Democrats. That's an illegal act. You can't just take somebody off the street, beat them, and then just put them in a van, even if they are they're not legally here. But let me ask you this: what we've been seeing for the last few weeks are brown immigrants being detained, beaten, and led away. Have you seen or noticed anyone they're picking on anyone like from Sudan or Africa who doesn't belong here, or they're just focusing on the brown Mexican immigrants? Have you seen that?
I'm not. Very good question. I don't want to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that it is blanketly not happened, but I've not seen the coverage on that. You're right.
Yeah, and I've not. And I thought about it the other day. It says all we seeing is brown illegal immigrants, and some maybe are legal, then they're let go. But I've not seen them, do that to the black immigrants, the African Sudans, So that's just food for thought, But if anybody should be putting out commercials about how Donald Trump's ICE agents are treating at least treating this ex-military man, who gave his country. He gave his life to his country, and his sons are in the military. That's a commercial waiting to happen, and I've not seen anything like that. So I was just wondering like that. All right, Rev, thanks, man.
All right. Thank you for your call. Let's go to Mark in Houston, Texas. Let me say this. I said Michael's birthday. Michael died yesterday. That's the death day. I think his birthday's in August. I just looked it up. I don't know where I got it turned around from somebody on the staff, but let's still give tribute. He passed on that day yesterday. Go ahead. Let's go to Mark.
Well, I'm glad you clarified me because I was about to celebrate Michael's birthday. I don't care how many. Every day to me was his birthday. It don't matter. Every time I heard his song, it was his birthday to me. So I'm glad you clarified it because there's been a whole lot of miscommunication in the past 24 hours in the media.
Yeah.
But I just want to say this, Loudmouth. Loudmouth, it's a lot going on. I just want to do a little dialogue with you just a little bit. It ain't gonna take that long. But when Trump had that parade, whatever, and he had to call in the National Guards and the Marines because he said that the police officers wasn't doing their job down there in California. see my thing is, do you think that the Hispanic officers were not arresting the Hispanics that had every right to be out there protesting? Do you think that had something to do with that? That's why he's saying, since they don't want to do their job, and they said, Hispanic officers stuck with the Hispanics and say, hey, I feel that they doing their job. They say, right, that's good. But when we do it, like you and I and black folks, we got black police officers out there just continuously just arresting us, even though we just peaceful protesting and stuff like that. I just hope that we could come together, like that, the way they did it. What do you think? I'm just asking. I got another one out there, if you don't mind. What you think about that?
What do I think that? What part of what you're saying? I don't understand. What about black police officers?
What I'm saying is that, black. See how when Trump said he's bringing in the National Guards and the Marines because the police officers won't do their job. That's the reason he brought them in. Am I correct? In California, right?
Right.
He said they didn't want to. So what I got out of it is that the Hispanic officers were not arresting the Hispanic people.
Oh, so okay. You're saying because the Hispanic officers were accused by Trump of not arresting their own people, that that's why he was sending the National Guard. And you're saying that you wish and you're saying you wish that our people would do that. Well, I think that clearly that if people are protesting nonviolently and peacefully, then they ought not be arrested. They have the right to assembly. I'm not going to say that our police officers ought to let them break the law. I don't think they were breaking the law. And I think that a lot of the officers, the Latino officers that weren't arrested in Latino, is not because they were Latino, because they weren't breaking the law. People have the right to demonstrate.
That's right. There you go. That's my theory. And I got another thing. I want to ask you this here. I don't know if you talked about it too much, but on the P. Diddy case, we noticed that there's a lot of misinformation came out yesterday. Had everybody stung about cases were dropped, and we found out that way. But now we have a hard problem, and especially in Harris County, that the rumors are saying that black people do not like to go to jury duty. But we do go to jury duties. And now we see that a judge has kicked off a jury, a black jury, because they said something about his address. But how did he get a chance to be subpoenaed to come to jury? Because it was the address that he would be resigning to do that. And we need to understand that they find all kind of ways to shortchange us, when we do our due diligence. And so now that's another kick in the face, because they say, well, we had extra juries or whatever, but that's not the issue. The issue is that if that jury was there, I don't care if he was for P. Diddy or not for P. Diddy. There was no excuse to kick him out and then replace him. See, this is the thing about it. And then replace it with a Caucasian jury. You see what I'm saying? So I think that was very wrong, and I think that's something that we need to really be concerned and talk about, because we are doing our due diligence, loudmouth, and it just don't make no sense for that, man. I seen it and I heard it. It just didn't make sense to me. What do you think about that?
Well, what I think is, again, you're asking questions that they'd love to hang me up saying something incorrectly.
Okay, I got you.
If the jury pool is where you chose 12 and you got 3 alternates, and one is eliminated, then it has to come from the 3 that were the alternates. So it has, just happened to be a white guy. Now, do I think that they do not give us fair representation of juries? Yes, that's a different question. But I can't question if they proceeded with the trial with 3 alternatives and the one up that if somebody was eliminated was white. I can't say if Diddy's lawyers didn't challenge that, then what am I supposed to say? They got more information than I do. Having said that, I understand they dropped some of the charges on him, but leaving some of the more serious charges, and that they're doing the closing arguments today. As most of you know, many of you know, I know Diddy well. I have not got involved in the trial. I have not gone down there. I have not visited him. I hope justice is done, but he will never be able to justify to me what I saw on that tape. I have 2 daughters. So I don't know the legalities, the jury decide that, but we do not have the right to do what he did on that tape to that woman. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. 1-877-532-5797 Sharpton. Be right back.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, the 2 most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They call me everything but a child of God.
A blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing. And I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are, and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that call me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, to Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor stayed right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them, now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old, with the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797. Don't forget, watch Politics Nation with Al Sharpton live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to have a lot of the people that are right in the mix. They are trying to get this Senate bill finished, and I'm going to have some from the Senate, some from the House on the Senate bill that Donald Trump calls his big, beautiful bill, which many of us call the big, ugly bill. In it, they have cuts to Medicaid, SNAP. We're going to deal with that. Of course, we'll deal with the whole question we'll deal with the whole question of what's going on with the progressives versus the regulars in the Democratic Party, as exemplified by the primary results in New York City's mayor's race, and Dammy, who was state senator, I believe, or state legislature, I know, won the primary over former governor Andrew Cuomo, and they're going to say he's a communist, he's this, he's that, and he was at the rally on last Saturday. You should be there this Saturday at 9 to 11 at the House of Justice. If you're in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, you should be there 9 to 11. And then Mandami just called, had his people call me and say he's going to be there this Saturday. He's going to appear right there in Harlem at the House of Justice. He came to ask for the vote. He's going to come back this Saturday. And Spike Lee will be there this Saturday. I didn't announce last week he was coming, but I just talked to Spike myself. Spike said, man, damn it, coming, I want to be there because we got to beat the mayor's situation. So you heard it first right here this coming Saturday after tomorrow, 9 to 11 at the House of Justice, 145th Street and Lenox Avenue. Also, we are gearing up everywhere, everybody, for August 28th for the March on Wall Street, and you need to be on the list getting everything and everyone you can to be a part of the march, to put corporate America on notice. And all you have to do is go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net, and we will send you every Friday afternoon what needs to be sent to you to give you information on what and how we are dealing with the whole question of corporate responsibility, they call it. Corporate reciprocity, others call it. We are saying that in January, when Donald Trump took office, first thing he did is said, kill DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the corporate world flipped just like this. Now let's remember, it was the corporate world that came up with DEI during the George Floyd movement. They're the ones that said we're going to start diversity, equity, inclusion. They start throwing money at groups that didn't even have nothing to do with George Floyd and our movement, and started making commitments. As soon as Trump got in and said he's going after DEI, they flipped. So were you lying then, or are you lying now? Well, that's why we're going right to where they all do business, right where the Dow Jones and the stock exchange is. We're going to march from the African burial ground down to the world, to where they have the Wall Street trading. Go to www.National Action Network and sign up and be a part of it. All right, let's go to Deborah in Atlanta, Georgia. Deborah, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton.
Hi, thank you for taking my call, Reverend Sharpton. I have to say kudos to the man who was just on, speaking in reference to Sean Diddy Combs. One thing I will say, and I said this from the beginning, I don't waver. Basically, I am not watching the trial. I refuse to. But I remember calling your show and stating that they had false charges on this man, and that they were bringing him down financially. Now I don't know who all testified and things of that sort, but I will tell you this: as a woman, I stand with women. But everybody was talking about how the girl he adopted, he had killed her, she was missing, he made this person do that, and this and that. Come to find out, the one main person who y'all claim was so scared of him named only one of her children after him. So it's just amazing to me how, like, we'll read something in the media and we'll just take it to whatever avenue that it places us. We're on the one-way street where we get paid for it on social media. And then I'll tell you something else that I noticed with Sean Diddy Combs. A lot of people who testified against him, a lot of people who speak against him on TV and on these TV talk shows and whatever today, worked for him at one place and time where he had them on his payroll and he was paying them. So it's just so funny to me that the same man that paid you is the same man that you're against today being paid to speak up against him. Now, I don't know what he did or what he didn't do, but I totally agree with that man in reference to taking the one person off of the jury and replacing him with someone else. and look at all of the so-called charges that he had that they dropped. This is a good indication of showing individuals how they will put a whole lot of charges on you and just try to see what sticks. The main charges they had on, I think they had from kidnapping, false imprisonment, just do anything, any type of charge that they could. And then it's somewhere down the line, they was hoping they could find some type of way where it could come up where they could try to make it stick, and they dropped it because it wasn't a charge at all. So I just wanted people to be very much aware of that. Again, I'm not for what he did or what he didn't do, but I do know that in a lot of these cases, from what I'm understanding, when I look at the background of some of these people, you were there for a reason because your pockets got fat and your pockets aren't fat anymore. So I'm not talking about any one individual person. I'm just saying when I look at this trial, when I look
Well,
at
all I'm saying, Deborah, and I let you explain your point of view. I know Puffy since he was 18, and he was very much involved with a lot of things. But the tape of him beating that girl is unjustified. I don't care who don't like it. I don't care how much he paid her. I don't care what their relationship was. That was wrong. Now, how the law goes, a jury can decide. But me, seeing him beat a woman for any reason like that is wrong. And if he is acquitted and gets out, I'll tell him that. And he knows I'll tell him that. That's wrong. And we cannot, in the name of how we know the criminal justice system is wrong, have it both ways. We should condemn the criminal justice system when they're wrong because they've come after me. But we also ought to tell us that we have no right to conduct ourselves that way.
I totally agree with that, Reverend Sharpton, but he's not on trial for that.
He is on trial for that. Part of the trial is that he was running a criminal business, and these people were taking abuse and doing things and being paid out of the business. That's what RICO is. That's part of the charge. That's why she testified.
Yeah, but I understand that part, but I haven't heard anything in reference. Now, I'm not watching it yet, and I'm not going to watch it, but I haven't heard anything charges about beating her.
No, he's not charged with beating her. But the reason she was there and tolerated it, she testified, is because she had a contract with him, and part of it, the contract was with his business. All they have to establish is that he committed crimes and that his business was set up to facilitate those crimes. That's what I understand he has to prove with RICO. They didn't charge him. There's no federal charge on beating somebody. That would be a state charge.
The beating of Cassie. I am totally against the beating of any woman. I'm totally against the beating of any man.
Right.
I can see that every day on TV now. They're beating the men too. But what I'm saying is you can't just create, not you, but you can't just create charges. I mean, I am totally against the beating of what I saw. But those are not the charges that they had on this man. And like some like kidnapping and false imprisonment and all of that, they dropped. And I'm just saying, those are major charges to put on somebody, and then at the end just drop it. So to me, they were just trying to paint a picture or just throwing stuff on the wall to see what they can make stick. And I just think that is illegal.
Well, prosecutors do that. Prosecutors do that. But the fact that they've kept these amount of felonies there, they must think they're going to stick. And we'll know. They're doing closing arguments today. We'll see in the next day or two or three or four, whatever the jury comes back, what the jury decides. All right. Thank you for your call. As always, you keep it real, and I'm glad about it. Let's take a break. Be right back. Keep it real. Sharpton. Be right back. Keep it real.
Sharpton of Brooklyn, New York. I've been traveling around the country talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If he woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepping to the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God doesn't smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say real song. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Pick it up. God has smiled on me. He's been good. Then I went on by backstage at the Apollo Theater and I saw a man come out. They call him the King of Soul, James Brown. And James Brown said, Reverend, don't you worry. I started out as a shoe shine boy. I started out as a convict. I started out uneducated. But I learned to sing my song. And I sung it all over the world. I told him it was a man's world. I told him about the big payback. I told him Papa got a brand new bag. And all over the world, they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown. Don't you bow your head. Tell him what you told me, Brother Brown. I said, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Yeah. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I went home and I told my mother what Brown told me. And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief. All we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but he looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burning down, all you have to do is think of the things that God made a way for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 don't smile on me. Now then, the God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. And that has been so good to me. Yes, he has. I say, God smiled on me. He has set me free. And I know all over the country, smile on me. We need jobs. We need a way to make it. We need help. We need jobs. We need a way to make some money to feed our families and raise our bread. We need a way to survive, so we don't need crime as a survival kit. We just need a little bit. But don't give the hope up. Don't lose the faith, because God will smile on you. God will give you the strength. God will make a way for you. Adam Clay Powell said, keep the faith. Keep the faith, baby. I hear Robert Kennedy saying that it's not the dream of, but it's the dream that'll live on forever. Just know that God will smile on you. Dr. King had a dream. Dr. King said, I went to the mountaintop, but I didn't stop there. I looked over and saw the promised land. I hear Brother Malcolm saying, don't sit on the stoop. Stand up and be a man. Respect yourself. Be somebody. Then I hear the brothers in the Hispanic community say, I'm going to stand up and be a man. must remember that if we look to God, God has the answer to all of our problems. God is still the same God he was years ago, and we can still make it. We can still hold on like Frederick Douglass did. We can still keep him on like Martin Luther King did. We can still ride on the way everyone that made it did. They didn't have much, but they had a whole lot of faith. They didn't have money, but they had a lot of determination. We know that God will look out for his children, that God will make a way out of no way. If you just keep the faith and refuse to lose, and God will make a way, because God's children don't have color. God's children just have will. And I can still hear somewhere in my mind James Brown say, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me sing here. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord.
You got to be the new thing. This is not about likes on Facebook. This is about changes in our society. We got a hostile bigot in the White House, and we don't need a popularity contest. We need people that are grounded and rooted in this and gonna fight with all they got. Jesus went up on the mountain and told his disciples. Reverend Toon said, y'all pray with me. They went to sleep. And when they looked up, they say that he had gone up on the mountain. They turned transfiguration. Is that in the book? And he was talking to Moses and Elijah. If Jesus had to talk to those that preceded him, then how you so brilliant you ain't got to talk to nobody? So as we embark on dealing with this DEI fight, I wanted to read, I studied all week, what would Dr. King be saying? What would Reverend Jackson be saying? That's what we do. This ain't a Sharpton thing or whoever thing. This is a thing in continuity. If Dr. King can shut down the Montgomery bus boycott when we couldn't even ride the front of the bus, if Jesse Jackson could take on major corporations before we had cell phones, then we in our day can take these companies that want to say no DEI and shut them down, because we come out of a tradition and a lineage that can do that.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now.
I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. 1-877-532-5797. Let's go to Mr. White in Milwaukee. Mr. White.
Hey, how's it going, Brother Al? I mean, Reverend Al.
That's all right. I'm good.
Because you, man, just honored to talk to you again. I reminded you to watch the Civil War, remember?
Yes.
Movie? Yeah. So I've been pushing that, but just to hear the lady that you were just on with, man, I'm glad you said exactly what you said and checked her on that, because you're uninformed when you don't watch it, and then you're ill-informed when you think you understand it. You know, you don't beat no woman like that. I was taught by women and my uncles. You don't put hands on them, and I got daughters. You know, if that would have been my child, Puffy wouldn't be on trial.
Yeah. you express my sentiments exactly. I mean, if it had been Dominique or Ashley, I'd have been the one in the defendant's seat. I mean, you just don't do that.
And whether they made that choice to be with him or whatever, it's still, you know, against what we are. We're protectors, you know. And for him to be what he is, he's no longer was a gorilla. He was supposed to be a gorilla. Now you just that average little monkey
Yeah.
that they wanted.
Yep.
You know, so I teach young men right now, don't monkey around with your life and mess it up. Learn how to be what you are supposed to be, which is a gorilla, man. We gorillas. And we ain't in the midst. We always just in the midst of things. Because they can't handle or control us the way they want to. So they go for the weaker one. And now we got to keep them, you know, in line. But
Yeah. Yeah.
no way. I mean,
You got it right, bro, White. And let me say this. I tell people, and as most of you know, many of you know, that I was close with James Brown like a son, so I knew everybody in the entertainment world. And I used to tell a lot of them that would get off in wrong stuff, and I won't detail it. And I tell them there's a scripture in the Bible that of much is given, to whom much is given, much is required. And if you have been blessed to make a lot of money and get stardom, don't talk about they after you. You know they after you. And you should straighten up and clean up your stuff. And don't act like you should be given a pass when you know better. You know they can hold you a different standard. But to beat that woman like that on tape, I don't care what the reason was, what got him mad. That's unjustifiable. I can't stand it with that.
Yeah, and he used women, but women still have a sympathy for him. Why, I don't know, because that's a woman.
Right.
And we don't know or figure women out. And, you know, and I've been married, man, 33 plus years. And I've been her protector from, you know, just others. Because there's always someone out there, you know, my daughter. And I taught her to go in the ways that you are safe. And if you're not safe, you got to check in with me. I need to know where you're at, what you're doing. It's plenty times that I saved her from coming up missing, literally. I mean, really. She wouldn't be where she's at now. But I just couldn't understand why that lady would come on and say that about Puffy, especially I didn't see the tape. Because you didn't watch the tape.
Right.
You didn't watch the trial like you were supposed to.
Right.
You know, make your own assumption. And that's, you know, assumption. But, man, I just appreciate you. I'm just glad to talk to you, man.
Thank you again for giving me that tip on that movie. Thank you for your call. And let me go to Rufus in Savannah, Georgia. Rufus. Is Rufus there? I don't hear Rufus.
Yeah, I don't know. He's not.
All right, let me read some of our messages. O.G. Kelly is saying, I agree with you, O.G. Kelly. No, this is Tanya Sovo. Says, I agree with you, O.G. Kelly. Some women just don't get it. How can you throw another woman under the bus? And then O.G. Kelly said, I don't understand what some women mean when they are trying to excuse Diddy, especially black women. And Lori Parks, my ace in Detroit, says there's more major issues, concerns that is going on in this country other than talking about Puffy. Whatever he did, he's reaping what he sowed. All right, let me go. I'll have to leave it at, Lori kind of shut the chapter down on that one. Let's go to is it Yolanda? Is that Yolanda? In Alabama?
Yolda.
Yolda in Alabama. Yolda.
Hi, Reverend Al. It's Yolda. Listen, we talked Tuesday, but this hadn't happened. I'd like to know, have you received any word about a murder of an 18-year-old here in Alabama, Jamal, I think it's Omari Jamal Peoples?
No.
Okay.
What happened?
Well,
what part of Alabama? What happened?
He's in Homewood, the suburb of Birmingham. I called because this morning someone was online accusing you of being missing in action, and they obviously don't listen to you because you always say you don't just show up, you are asked in.
Right.
So we took care of that, but I just wanted to know if you had been contacted. Yeah, the young man was supposed to be, and the stories are so conflicted, I don't even want to repeat it, but he was supposed to be sitting in the park in this area known for being racist, and the police went up to his car and smelled reefer, and an encounter took place, and blah, blah, blah. But I don't know if they're trying to contact you, but I'm asking you to listen out for it. But we did straighten out the people online that was, accusing you of being missing in action when you don't know about it, and you've always said that they have to contact you.
If they contact us, we will respond. Thank you for letting me know. I'll be on the lookout to see what happens.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you for your call. Well, they always go. If you show up, they say you're showboating, taking all the media. If you don't show up, you're missing in action. But that's part of the whole task. I know what I signed up for, so I'm going with it anyhow. Let me go to Anita in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Anita.
Hi, Reverend Al.
Hi.
Okay, last time I spoke with you, I told you I was going to try to contact J.B. Smoove. Well, we've been trying to contact his wife, and two of my daughters declined calling directly because they said they don't support R. Kelly. But cause they said he couldn't go to get his surgery he needed for his blood clot. This is serious. I mean, you don't do that to people. I don't care what they're guilty of if they're still alive, But P. Diddy, I didn't hear the latest of what's going on with him, but Reverend Al, as a married woman, these women carry on in the street so bad. You can't even walk around with your husband without 1,000 of them coming up to you all in his face, wiggling all day long. The women do it, and I'm sorry, I don't care if they say they don't. They do. And they never have their men with them in case you decided to wiggle back at their men. Okay, let it be fair competition. And then they say that it's rape if they don't get what they want. And I'm not saying that's always true, but women are held accountable for their religion and what they believe in. And that's why Islam tells women stay out of certain circumstances, and we don't use alcohol and things like that, drugs and intoxicants, you know what I'm saying? And that'll help you keep a clear mind. So I'm not protecting women because those women don't protect women that actually want to care about children and the welfare of orphans, widows, fatherless, things like that. They're not contributing to the charity part of that, and that's why we're so lack and slack on everything. And I'm not going to say the Republican Party is right about everything, but they're not wrong about everything. Some charities and things need to be cut out because this is just disobedience of people. And not to say that Republicans are the best as far as talking about God's law, but I mean, human conscience, right has to prevail anyway because we can't live on wrong. So I want to say that, but now I forgot why. About the ceasefire. I'm scared to death. I'm still not getting over the Minnesota shootings yet because that's serious. To me, and I forgot to tell you this, that's like them saying this guy was sick that did this. From what I heard last. But Malcolm X, they said it was Elijah Muhammad. Okay, Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X were student and teacher. That student understand well what to do with what he was taught. And he went to the Middle East, and he could have made connections for financial situations for blacks. And they said it was Elijah Muhammad, but I don't know. It could have been an international setup. And now, again, here we are in Minnesota shootings, okay? It's stopping the black civil rights movement again in some kind of a way. That's so serious to me. I will not relive 500 years of history again, okay? I'm going to keep what's in place. I don't do things twice when it's been done correctly, right? Martin Luther King did it right, okay? And he called the ceasefire for everybody to stop being foolish and violent and crazy. And nobody's listening, and I'm waiting for the world's punishment, whether you're Muslim, Christian, or Jew, or nothing. And
All right, let me take a break. I'll be right back. Keeping it real. Sharpton, be right back.
So who is Al Sharpton anyway? Who is this 33-year-old preacher without a church?
A number of black New Yorkers as well. He is little more than a pudgy exhibitionist who can be counted on to show up, bullhorn in hand, at every racial incident.
I often quote Mark Twain saying, the two most important moments in life is the moment you are born and the moment you find out why you were born. I had a very troubling conversation the other day that prompted me to do this little video. Young man that I've known a while came to me and he was crushed. I mean, really crushed, because people were criticizing his work. He's in the ministry, but he's also an actor. And he said he couldn't understand why people were jumping all over, criticizing him, trying to find scandalous and derogatory things about him. And I told him, I said, you know, you're very young. You don't know the road I've traveled. They call me everything but a child of God.
Racial discord, a blabbermouth, a loudmouth, too flamboyant, an agitator, a racist,
I
a race
had to
baiter.
learn.
Yeah, right.
I was not defined by how others saw me. I was defined by how I saw myself and whether I was being true to myself. Some of you watching this don't like me. And it doesn't matter as long as I know what I'm doing and I like me for being real. So I'm doing this video to say to you, whoever you are and whatever you do, you may not be in ministry or social justice, none of this stuff, but don't live your life worried about opposition or people that don't like you. You can turn that around. Use me as an example. The same people that call me a scam artist, a con artist, a sellout, or racial hustler and all, I kept going. And the people I respected started respecting and publicly embracing my work.
When Coretta Scott King, the widow of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., had this to say about Al Sharpton.
A leader who has protested injustice with a passionate, unrelenting commitment to nonviolent action in the spirit and tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. And I am talking about your leader, our leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton.
The other thing that hasn't changed is the National Action Network's commitment to fight injustice and inequality here in New York City and across America. And that's not only a testament to Reverend Sharpton, it's a testament to all of you who are here tonight.
First and foremost, to Reverend Sharpton. I saw him when he first came on the scene, and I have marveled at his tenacity, at the development of his intellect, and his devotion to our movement, and much he has contributed to the world we are experiencing. I am honored, and I must say that when I had my debate with Dr. King on the issue of the church and religion, he didn't warn me that after his departure, his space would be filled by another preacher, and that preacher would be Al Sharpton.
All you want in life is people that matter to you to say you did all right. And more important, that you can look in the mirror and say you did all right.
Thank you, Rev. Thanks for that introduction. Look, we've known each other for a long time. I'm grateful not only for your leadership and partnership, but quite frankly, more importantly, for your friendship. And thanks to all of you, members of our nation's most important civil rights organization.
You have been, over all of your years, such an extraordinary leader. You are a voice of truth, a voice of conscience, a voice of practicality around what we must address and what we can do. And I thank you so much for your friendship.
I remember that most of the youth around Al's age, he was about 12, wanted to be like Connie Hawkins, a great basketball player, legend, or Earl the Pearl, or Clyde Frazier. Al wanted to be like Adam Powell, a powerful preacher with a social justice gospel. He was very close to, at that time, the Reverend William Augustus Jones, powerful preacher and social justice advocate, and Reverend Gardner Taylor State right down the street, and Bishop Washington, whose church he came from, and Reverend Sandy Ray. He wanted to be like these giant preachers. He wanted them to have the edge, however, of the King's social justice dimension. He wanted to be like them. Now he's one of them. Perhaps taller than most of them because of the risks he has taken and the reward God has given him with his gift. I remember so well that I first escorted him to jail. He was around 13 years old. With the jail fighting the ANP. He was in the lineage of our struggle. He grew up in it. We didn't just see him on TV one night. He didn't happen. He came bottom up, not top down.
Rev, you know, you were right there
From the beginning.
with the stuff that was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, and I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. We've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene you saw Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now, let me ask a question. What was your weight on that scene?
I probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair, man.
Yeah, you had the head on.
Yeah, it was
Denzel, yourself, and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut, so we went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement. Stop telling yourself you're not confident of what you could do. When people with half your skills and a quarter of your talent have gone on to create big waves in life, if you look at them and you know you're more gifted than them, then what is your problem? You are looking for someone to come and drag you into success. You've got to use what you have, which is, in my judgment, more skillful than others I've known in your areas. Use that and believe in that, and your confidence will build up as you get going and start doing. And don't chase the spotlight. Sharpen your skills. Live in your purpose. And you'll get so good the spotlight will be chasing you. Be so good they can't help. Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. Put the spotlight on you. 1-877-532-5797, 1-877-532-5797, and you can go to our message page at www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Go to live stream, and you can write something on our message page. And O.G. Kelly is saying on the message page, J.B. Smooth doesn't have any connection to R. Kelly. That's the second time I've heard that woman mention trying to get in touch with J.B. Smooth about R. Kelly. All right, I don't really know, but okay, fine. Tanya Stovall says, I hope Ted Cruz gets voted out when his re-election comes up. Well, I share with you on that hope, Tanya. We are joined, as we are every Thursday for the last 90 minutes of the show, by the CEO of the Protestant Welfare Agencies in New York, as well as the Vice Chairman of the National Board of National Action Network, Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin. And Jenny, two things I wanted to bring up to you to comment on that we spent the first hour and change on is that, one, the legal issues around Diddy's trial. A couple of callers brought that up in terms of they had dropped some of the charges and kept their other charges, and they didn't see where RICO was proven and that he wasn't charged with beating up the woman on tape, Cassie. And I tried in my non-attorney way to explain RICO has nothing to do with the beating. It has something to do with whether the enterprise was there and she was part of that. I mean, well, you can explain it from your view. And the second thing is the whole question of progressives and how we deem who's progressive and not progressive in terms of our community. And I'm given that I got to that based on the recent election here in New York, well, primary in New York, where the quote progressive has been nominated, beat Andrew Cuomo and the rest, and we're saying there was a big article in the New York Times. You and I talked about it earlier today on the phone about the whole question of black voters, which way would they go, progressive or traditional, and all of that. And I think that it was very interesting to me and interesting to a lot of our listeners that Zoran Mamdani won decisively and got his votes. He only got 20% of the black vote, and he was at the rally, Saturday Action Rally last Saturday. I just announced he'll be there this Saturday, and Spike Lee says he wants to come hear what he got to say because he's now the nominee. We do not know whether Andrew Cuomo is going to run independent, and he lost decisively in the Democratic primary, but he's still saying he may run independent. And we do know that Mayor Eric Adams is saying he is running independent. Some are saying he deserves to be reelected, and you know I go back in the 35 years. Others are saying he's too close to Trump, and they're holding that against him, and that Trump is the one that got him out of his indictment. So that's the landscape. First, deal with the Diddy trial as our lawyer in-house, and then your views on this progressive question.
So the bottom line on the Diddy trial that people have to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, what prosecutors are seeking to do in any criminal trial is to get a conviction. And what can sometimes happen, and it appears this is what has happened here, when you are before jurors, and jurors can be made up of people nowadays who have legal background, legal jargon background, and then people who don't know anything, or they work and they play in different spaces other than the law. What happens is prosecutors are continually throughout the trial reading the jurors, trying to get a sense of whether or not they have a full appreciation for the charges that have been brought, whether or not they believe the jurors have a full appreciation for the charges, and whether the evidence as it has been presented, one, substantiates the charges, or two, is confusing or it does not fully substantiate the charges, and therefore they're on they're kind of in the moment. They are making determinations about whether or not they have done the best job of proving the charges with the evidence that's presented, or whether or not the evidence that has been presented presents an ironclad case for conviction. And so it may be the case that the evidence does support the charges that were brought, but can the jury, because they're not necessarily skilled in legalese and in language, like if these two things happen, then we've proven X, Y, Z. You can create reasonable doubt or sow reasonable doubt when you have things like people, like two of the women, when they charged them for attempted kidnapping, charged Diddy for attempted kidnapping, two of the women saying that they consented to some of the sexual acts. You can have a juror saying, well, then it doesn't necessarily sound like they was attempted kidnapping as part of the RICO. I'm not sure about that. Whereas somebody else might think, well, they've proven it. So what the prosecutors will do is look at how the jury is responding in real time, and they'll look at whether or not they've sowed enough, the defense or the evidence presented casts enough reasonable doubt so as not to convict on a particular charge or an element of a charge. So what they've done here is they haven't dropped all of the charges. They just dropped elements of the case, charges in the case, where they think that there is confusion, or maybe where the evidence in and of itself, as presented, doesn't fully substantiate the charge. That's what they've done here. They dropped.
So he's still facing very serious charges.
Oh, he's still facing very serious charges. They just dropped a few elements. It's like, and see, the thing that the prosecution is probably concerned about is you can get people in jury room, and, perhaps you've been on a jury, people who are listening in have been on a jury, and people can start getting into, well, they didn't prove this, so I don't think he's guilty. And the prosecution is saying, you know what, we're going to take out those elements of the case, those charges where there may be uncertainty. We're going to remove them so that they don't get an acquittal across the board because people can't distinguish.
So let me just hypothetically ask this. So in the RICO indictment, one of the charges, and they had in there the kidnapping, they dropped that, but they kept RICO. What you're saying is that if I'm on the jury and I doubted that he or had questions about whether he kidnapped the two young ladies, right, that was witnesses, right. But there is clear that he was using his business to pay for drug trafficking and guns trafficking and male prostitutes and all. Well, I might say he did do that. So they still get the RICO conviction because they took the kidnapping out, because I was cloudy on that, but it's clear they don't have to prove the kidnapping all to keep the RICO as long as the elements is there that his business, because what they did clearly prove is that he was doing this out of his business counts, not personal, exactly right. Which is RICO, right?
That's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. You hit it on the nail. So RICO can include kidnapping. It can include arson, but it also includes like extortion and bribery. It includes drug trafficking. It can include embezzlement. It can include counterfeiting. It can include money laundering, witness tampering, right? So they feel like they've proven a lot of that, but they feel like people could say, well, there's reasonable doubt around the kidnapping, so let's take that out so you don't have jurors sitting and deliberating. Well, he didn't do the kidnapping. Some of us don't believe he did the kidnapping, so now they want to quit on everything. That's what they did here.
And see, the thing that bothers me, and I don't know whether he's guilty or not of anything, but the thing that bothers me, just so I'm clear, I have stood up for many cases over the last 40 years. And for me to go, as much as I know Puffy, much as we support each other, and stand in front of that courtroom when I saw that tape, it gives them the moral authority to say, see, Sharpton will defend anybody. I cannot put the next case or the cases like George Floyd I defended in jeopardy that I do not weigh the cases I go in. Now, anybody calling in on Puffy's side can go right down there to the court. The closing arguments is going on. But I have to think about, I'm putting somebody who don't have millions case in trouble by something that appears to be something that I wouldn't let them do to my daughter. So that's me. I'm speaking for Al Sharpton. Let's take a break. Jennifer Jones-Austin will speak for herself right after the break. Keeping it real. Sharpton, Jones-Austin. Be right back.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program.
1 year ago and change, 67 weeks ago, we started marching every Thursday, am I right, on the offices of Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman was the architect of ending DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. He started it. I want to give a little history because a lot of people get Negroitis and get confusion. I don't even mind your ego. Everybody need one, but you don't have to become contrary and duplicitous. We got to have integrity even among those with ego. So we started when they first came out against DEI. Now Ackman and them started it going to Harvard University, forcing out the first black woman and first black president of Harvard. We went to his office and been going 67 weeks. I went first 10 to 12 weeks. And this brother, stand up, Reverend Ron McHenry, coordinator House of Justice. This brother has been there every week. Many of you here in the audience have marched every week. So we didn't just get in this. We were in it the day they came at Claudine got. Last year's convention, we dealt with DEI. This year we said that we're going at these corporations that had come out against DEI. Many of you, most of y'all I'm looking at was at the convention. And we hit Pepsi. Pepsi called and said, all right, we 8-9 days in, we agree to meet. And we went, purchased New York. Chairman of our board, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, and Carol Wallace, who's a special advisor to us on finance, and laid out to them that one, we don't care what you call it, DEI, IED. Y'all are gonna keep your commitments in terms of the black community. And that means we don't want special privilege, but we do not want to be specially excluded. This is not about we don't want merit. We feel if our people are at the table, we can beat anybody on merit in many cases. So we want from employment to your board, to how you deal with marketing, to who does your financial investment. We want to go across the board with that. Otherwise, if you don't want to deal with the question of diversity in how you do your business, then don't deal with diversity in your consumer base, because you don't believe in diversity. So we just will try to remove all the dollars we can from buying your stuff. In fact, I told the chairman, maybe the chairman of the board, maybe the CEO, I said, in fact, I learned that not from growing up civil rights, I learned that from Donald Trump. I said, what do you mean? I said, Donald Trump says he's gonna redo tariffs, that if he doesn't get what he wants for the country, they were gonna raise the tariffs. I'm doing the black tariff reverse. If we don't get what we want, I mean, y'all can't be for Trump and tariff and not be for us in the African American community with a tariff. 1 year ago and change, 67 weeks ago, we started marching every Thursday, am I right, on the offices of Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman was the architect of ending DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. He started it. I want to give a little history because a lot of people get Negroitis and get confusion. I don't even mind your ego. Everybody need one, but you don't have to become contrary and duplicitous. We got to have integrity even among those with ego. So we started when they first came out against DEI. Now Ackman and them started it going to Harvard University, forcing out the first black woman and first black president of Harvard. We went to his office and been going 67 weeks. I went first 10, 12 weeks. And this brother, stand up, Reverend Ron McHenry, coordinator House of Justice. This brother has been there every week. Many of you here in the audience have marched every week. So we didn't just get in this, we were in it the day they came at Claudine Guy. Last year's convention, we dealt with DEI. This year we said that we're going at these corporations that had come out against DEI. Many of you, most of y'all I'm looking at was at the convention. And we hit Pepsi. Pepsi called and said, all right, we 8-9 days in, we agree to meet. And we went, purchased New York, chairman of our board, Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson, and Carol Wallace, who's a special advisor to us on finance, and laid out to them that one, we don't care what you call it, DEI, IED. Y'all are gonna keep your commitments in terms of the black community. And that means we don't want special privilege, but we do not want to be specially excluded. This is not about we don't want merit. We feel if our people are at the table, we can beat anybody on merit in many cases. So we want from employment to your board, to how you deal with marketing, to who does your financial investment. We want to go across the board with that. Otherwise, if you don't want to deal with the question of diversity in how you do your business, then don't deal with diversity in your consumer base. 9718775325797, Twitter.com, The Rev Al, Twitter.com, The Rev Al. Jennifer Jones Austin Esquire is our co-host. And Happiness Donuts, let me read a couple of messages. Happiness Donuts, Jenny says, Mayor Adams corrupt with orange, in my opinion, hoping Mom Donnie wins. Time for a new God in the Big Apple, all right? Todd and a few callers call in a lot. Most of these, WAOK. Y'all moved it, I can't read it. I do not, it disappeared. All right, I'm sorry, it evaporated as I was reading it. All right, OG Kelly says prosecutors has presented evidence suggesting Diddy engaged in sexual abuse, including allegations of sex trafficking. And OG Kelly says, Happiness Donut says to OG Kelly, they made bad business deals and didn't read their contracts. Can't fault the mogul for keeping publishing rights and all the other stuff. Barry Gordy, Quincy Jones, et al. And that's just some of them. Let's go to the phones. I see the sage from the South. Jihad is on the phone. Jihad, you're keeping it real with Sharpton and Jones Austin.
Hey, Reverend Allen and Austin, how are you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Good. I'm great. Hey, Reverend Al, the on the Diddy situation, I'd like to say something. Not for what unless there's some other evidence. Every one of the women involved had a relationship with Diddy, and all of the so-called freak offs involved those ladies and Diddy and the prostitutes. Now, to me, it says that this was not a big trafficking ring corporation. This was Diddy's fetish, to have sex with a woman and then have other people have sex with that same woman and watch and film. That's all I've heard. I haven't seen a picture or video of strange women, neutral women, being involved in the sex off. Every sex off that was presented to my knowledge was a woman who either worked for Diddy, that he had a relationship with, or developed a relationship with, or his girlfriend.
No, you're right. And Jennifer can weigh in on this. As I understand it, everything you're saying is right. Where it becomes a sex trafficking is flying in the male prostitutes who were paid by company money and were flying on the company plane. That is illegal, whether the women were consensual or not.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So for a Reverend Al, let me just ask this question: who else money was Diddy going to use to satisfy his sexual perversion, his sexual personal perversion?
Well,
what other friends?
You want me to give you an answer, Jihad? He would have been, and because a lawyer explained this to me, and you weigh in, Jenny, you the lawyer I know. If he had taken out the same money and personally paid it, it would have been RICO. If the plane was his and not the company, it wouldn't have been RICO.
That's right.
He did it as a business expense.
That's exactly right.
Okay. And so the business expense is what makes it RICO.
Right.
So can we also maybe conclude that Diddy did these personal things for his personal fetish, but wasn't smart enough to understand because he used the company money?
No. Mm-mm. You can't go there because Diddy, first of all, you got to remember, this is a man who built a mogul. He's a business mogul. He built an empire. You can never put forth the defense of, I didn't know. The law is you knew or you should have known. That's the law straight up. You can't say, I killed somebody or I took some money out of the bank. I embezzled some money or I brought people across state lines in my plane. And that's actually called sex trafficking. You can't say that I did this. You can't say that essentially I had women who I was involved with or who I told them I was going to help make them stars, and I engaged them in acts of force and coercion to get them to participate in acts. You can't do those things and say, well, I really didn't know that was sex trafficking. I didn't know that I was actually forcing people to do things in ways that were against the law. That's not an excuse. Ignorance of the law is no excuse in America, in anywhere, any place. So he knew or he should have known. That's the standard by which he's going to be judged. And what you've got to remember is, even if you have somebody who looks like they're saying, I consented to this, it's a greater, like when you look at sexual harassment charges, right? When you have people who are playing at different levels of power, that becomes a factor. So now if you've got women who he's promising he's going to develop, and he's moving them about and having them engage in certain activities, that can be force.
But let me say this. Let me say this, because I understand Jihad's question, but let me say this, Jihad. Knowing business people as I've known them, big stars and all of that, there's no way he was, in my opinion, now the jury can find what they want him, that he was flying them private jets around with male prostitutes, and his accountant and the people in his office were saying, how do we mark this down? What was this for? And he knew this was not for the business. That's where he has a problem.
And I understand that.
Because they got to record all of that to decide what's taxable, what's not. His accounts, all they got to go. Here's $500,000 in tax in trips. What was this? This was on business. It was on business. He didn't put down there what it was for. If he had taken that same $500,000 and put it in his account and did it, he could have said my personal entertainment. That is not what he did.
Yes, sir.
Right. And, I just think about in this moment, think about Donald Trump and the charges that were brought against him. here in New York City, and how, a lot of that had to do with his accountants in his organization,
Right.
where they were masking, they were masking payments made, to the people who were accusing him of certain activities, and they knew what they were doing.
And he was convicted.
Well, right. But let me throw this in there also, if I could, because I think we're operating under the assumption that all women are just good people. All women are just no women is evil or deceived. What's that word? Deceivious.
Deceptive.
Deceptive. That women can't be deceptive.
Sure they
You know
can.
what I mean? What I'm going to say to this also is the lesson in this situation is that, and Reverend Sharpton, you said it, if you had known, if it had happened to your daughter,
Right.
you would have made a move.
Right.
Now, every evidence suggests that the parents knew. The evidence suggests that the friends knew. The evidence suggests that all of these people knew these particular things was going on, and nobody made a move. So the lesson in this also is for us, the citizens, the friends.
I agree with that.
And whatever, to make a stand also against this situation.
I
and
agree
not
with that.
tolerate it to go on. And why were they so quiet during the whole process? So we, to a degree, that whole group is kind of like responsible for this monster situation. Diddy is ultimately responsible. But the group, for knowing about it and not going to the police, going to the mom and daddy, say, let's go take care of this. We got to get our daughter out of this,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. We already had the R. Kelly trial. We had all these trials. And now all of a sudden, too, Reverend Al, you have a wave of young ladies who have had relationships with these entertainers and sports figures.
Yeah.
Now everybody is suing for sexual harassment.
Yeah, everybody. No, and all of them are not innocent themselves. But the criminal stuff is like she said with Trump. We can't have two standards. But you're absolutely right. I don't think let's put it this way. I don't think any of them would be on the cover of Good Housekeeping. But what he's standing in trial for is the male prostitutes and them flying them back and forth and the drugs and ecstasy and all of that stuff. Oh, that's the problem. Not whether the girls were clean or not. But thank you for your call. Let me take a break. We'll be right back. Keeping it real. I was talking about, Jenny, started the show talking about the nuclear sites in Iran, and y'all done diddied me for an hour. We done went from us being blown up Iran to Diddy. But it's talk radio. Keeping it real. That's what we do. Sharpton, Jones Austin, be right back. Okay, how we got on this?
Country, talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God done smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. One more time. I want to say this song. I'll say God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Get up. God has smiled on me. Then I went on by backstage at the Apollo Theater and I saw a man come out. They call him the King of Soul, James Brown. And James Brown said, Reverend, don't you worry. I started out as a shoe shine boy. I started out as a convict. I started out uneducated. But I learned to sing my song. And I sung it all over the world. I told him it was a man's world. I told him about the big payback. I told him Papa got a brand new bag. And all over the world, they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown. Don't you bow your head. Tell him what you told me, Brother Brown. I said, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Yeah. He has set me free. God smiled on me. You've been so good to me. Then I went home and I told my mother what Brown told me. And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief. All we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but he looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burdened down, all you have to do is think of the things that God made a way for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 don't smile on me. Now then, the God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. That has been so good to me. Yes, he has. I said, God smiled on me. He has set me free. And I know all over the country, smile on me. We need jobs. We need a way to make it. We need help. We need jobs. We need a way to make some money to feed our families and raise our bread. We need a way to survive, so we don't need crime as a survival kit. We just need a little bit. But don't give the hope up. Don't lose the faith, because God will smile on you. God will give you the strength. God will make a way for you. Adam Great Power said, keep the faith. Keep the faith, baby. I hear Robert Kennedy saying that it's not the dream of, but it's the dream that'll live on forever. Just know that God will smile on you. Dr. King had a dream. Dr. King said, I went to the mountaintop, but I didn't stop there. I looked over and saw the promised land. I hear Brother Malcolm saying, don't sit on the stoop. Stand up and be a man. Respect yourself. Be somebody. Then I hear the brothers in the Hispanic community say, I'm going to stand up and be a man. I'm going to do the best I can. I had a reaper say, I don't care what time you come home, but just give me some respect when you get there. Lord, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God smiled on me. You've been so good to me. Sit down. And as we move on in history, let us remember that if we look to God, God has the answer to all of our problems. God is still the same God he was years ago, and we can still make it. We can still hold on like Frederick Douglass did. We can still keep him on like Martin Luther King did. We can still ride on the way everyone that made it did. They didn't have much, but they had a whole lot of faith. They didn't have money, but they had a lot of determination. We know that God will look out for his children, that God will make a way out of no way. If you just keep the faith and refuse to lose, and God will make a way, because God's children don't have
real, and I can still hear somewhere in my mind James Brown say, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say that. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord.
It's been a long time coming, but I know
1968, Dr. Martin Luther King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And it has been the commitment of National Action Network to always, in the month he was killed, to let them know they killed the dreamer.
I have a dream today.
When they can't kill the dreamer. Keeping it real. I'm your host, Reverend Al Sharpton, and we're back. Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin is our co-host. And let's go back to the phone. Let's go to Rufus in Savannah, Georgia. I tried to go to you, Rufus, earlier, and his phone died. He's got it back alive. His phone has risen again.
Right. Thank you. Good evening, afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Me and you often talk back and forth, and I think I explained to you I had dealings with the federal government some years ago in a federal jury trial. So I kind of know how it runs with these people, with those people. I understand your position in your stature in the community, that there is no way that you could kind of align yourself with him, I'm talking about with Diddy, because of that video that came out with him abusing that woman. There was no way that you could put all the people that, like you said, that don't have a voice, it put them at jeopardy, because it would seem like, I understand it 100% what your feelings on that situation. But me and you talked about, I told you about how the federal government would do. The federal government, I was telling you about how they do firearm charges.
Mm-hmm.
And a firearm charge is not a federal offense in the states. It's a possession of a firearm in a state by, like say, for instance, possession of a firearm in the state is a misdemeanor. But if they can predicate it on a felony and link it to interstate commerce. The only way the federal government, and I'm making this analogy, and I'm making this analogy to point out how they manipulate law. They manipulate the law to make it fit a federal charge, because they'll say that I owned it. They caught me with a firearm, and I'm a convicted felon. A state charge, I think max is about 5 years. A federal charge, max is 20 years. So it's a difference between 5 years and 20 years. You know what I'm saying? That's a 15-year difference. You know what I'm saying? So in order for them to get the federal charge, what they will say is that the trigger of the gun was made in North Carolina, and I got caught with the gun in Georgia. So what they will do is they say that, and they'll charge me with the interstate commerce, because that's the only way that the federal government can charge you in the state with possession of a firearm. That's the only way. They got to link it to interstate commerce.
Now that's tricky. That's being tricky with it. But you're right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And you'd be surprised how many, like you were talking about before, the poor black people ain't got no voices. You'd be surprised how many thousands been set in prison 15 and 20 and 25 years for what I just explained.
Yeah, and one of the things, and I'd like Jenny to weigh in. One of the things what you just explained is a technicality that falls within the federal law, but it's a real technicality. And I think that the other part of that people don't understand is the kind of money you need to defend yourself in federal court. I mean, it's not the same as state court. Federal court, you is enormous charge, lawyers, the whole bit. Am I right, Jenny?
Spot on, and I appreciate the point that you're making. You're making a great point. One thing I do want to tell you, though, is just be careful. Anybody out there who has a firearm, a possession of a firearm without a license, because in many states across the country, it is not just a misdemeanor. It doesn't have to be coupled with like attempted murder or attempted robbery or murder to be a felony. In some states, in many states, the law is that possession of a firearm is a felony. New York State is one of them, where if you have a firearm and you don't have a license, at one point it was a misdemeanor, but no longer is it a misdemeanor, it's a felony. So just be careful, just everybody take note of that. But now going back to your point, you're spot on, you're not wrong. Very often prosecutors, they weave together circumstances that creates what they call a theory of the case. And so you build charges based on a theory, and you put the evidence together to build that. That's what's happened with Donald Trump, with the case brought against him by the New York State District Attorney for Manhattan, by the New York State Attorney General, the case brought against his corporation. You build a case. It doesn't just happen with black people. It happens across the board. That's how you actually bring a prosecution. The thing is whether or not the evidence substantiates that. And so what we will see with the Diddy case is whether or not the evidence substantiates it. It's just how they build cases. It's what you do.
Well, the point I was making, if I'm still here, the point I was making is that you got a lot of blacks. I ain't talking about now, you explained what the laws is now, but I'm talking about all those many decades ago, say like in Georgia, a possession of a firearm, since I think back in 90 or 99 or 2000, that was a misdemeanor.
I'm not disagreeing.
You know what I'm trying to say? But they put people in jail for 20 years back then by making it a federal crime. By making it a federal crime. You see what I'm saying? So you still got people. I ain't talking about the Donald Trumps and the Diddy's. You know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about them. I'm talking about the people, the masses, the generations. The generations, and it was mainly blacks, because whites didn't. Usually, the states, the feds wouldn't pick up a white boy with a possession of a firearm. They'd pick up a black boy and make his charges a federal charge. You know what I'm saying? The white boy, granddaddy and uncle and brother know the county commissioner and the circuit court judge. So you know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm trying to say. You got a generation that they done buried with them kind of trickery moves. You know, that's all. I'm not trying to say what it is now, but I'm saying, but beware with this new Justice Department, with this new unethical Justice Department. Those are the kind of tricks that they're gonna try to play.
All right, thank you for your call. Let me go to Todd. Todd, it is Policy Day. Todd, you're keeping it real with Al Sharpton and Attorney Jennifer Jones Austin.
Hey, Reverend Al Sharpton and Jennifer Jones Austin. I watched your program this weekend. I watch it on occasion. I usually pick and choose the interviews that I want to see on the replay rather than watching it live. But I watched this one live, and I'm saying thank you to you. You brought on the mayor of San Diego, and the mayor of San Diego pointed out some things that the public needs to know about management of a municipality. And he talked about his 12,000 employees and his $6 billion budget, which really isn't a lot when you start thinking about all it has to get taken care of in the 8th biggest city in the country and one of the most expensive states in the country, California, and how the federal government's overreach with the pushing of legal and illegal immigrants out of the country and bringing them up and disrupting their economy, and his law enforcement being taken away from things that are of much more importance, except for the federal government has made this more importance. I thought, man, that's one of your better broadcasts. From what I saw, I was like, man,
Jenny, when I was a youngster and I would take a test in school, if I got like a 75 or 85 or 90, I couldn't wait to get home to show my mother. And I can't wait to get home today to tell everybody that I passed a test with Todd, because that's a hard test, Jenny. I mean, this is bragging rights. I'm going to high-five a dog when I walk in the house.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but I'm being sincere.
I am being sincere. You're a hard guy to get a compliment out of now. You a hard guy, but and we need that. That's also why I look forward to you calling. We are better when we have people that take time, study, and say what something. I'm not being facetious. I appreciate, even if I don't agree with you all the time, I appreciate you take very seriously what you're saying, and you take the show very seriously. I appreciate.
I sure do.
I appreciate.
This country is helping moving the common good forward. Both of you have heard me bring up San Diego on a few times on the broadcast as being what I consider to be a well-managed city. And I talk often when it comes up in conversation with other people that San Diego is one of the cities that I study, and how although 50 to 60 people being killed a year in the 8th biggest city in the country is still much, much too many when you consider all the resources that the city has. Go 120 miles north, it's 300 something in Los Angeles, and most of the other top 10 cities are way over 200. You know, and I was like, this is such good television and such good information for people to just want to get a basic understanding of civic engagement, how to run a municipality. He wasn't even on air long enough for me, but I hope he sparked somebody's attention and said, let me look into this a little bit more. And I do want Jennifer to address, if you didn't see the broadcast yourself, I'm telling you that how he pointed out assertively, listen, this overreach of the federal government, we're putting these legal and illegal immigrants in jeopardy of being here or getting thrown out altogether, is heavily causing a negative compromise to my municipality. I only got a $6 billion budget, and I got 12,000 people to manage, just employment alone. Do you feel the same way that he felt, Jennifer? That's like, listen, you're abusing your authority and causing a negative compromise to the municipality I'm charged to run. That's basically what he was saying. Isn't that what he was saying, Reverend Sharpton?
Yeah, that's basically what he was saying. I'm going to have to take the break. I'm going to let Jenny answer on the other side of the break. Reverend Charles Williams is stepping in for me as I do this press conference. and we'll be back. Reverend Charles Williams of Detroit. He's the dean of Detroit, the man in Detroit, the Motown man, the Motown preacher. He can holler if you call him. I'm going to be back. Reverend Williams, you got it, you and Jenny. And Todd is waiting for his answer. Keeping it real. Sharpton passing the ball to Williams. And in the middle, attorney Jennifer Jones-Austin.
Country, talking to the radio announcers, the church people and the street people, telling them that God has smiled on me. God has smiled on you if you got breath in your body. If He woke you up this morning and started you on your way. But I want to tell you some stories of people that God smiled on. We know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King, how he started way back in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, trying just to get dignity, trying to get respect. And he went all the way to the mountaintop. But he didn't forget about the brothers in the valley. He didn't forget about those trapped in the alley. And I hear Brother Martin King say, God has smiled on me. He's been good to me. Let me tell you, God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I see as Dr. King went on, another man stepping to the forefront by the name of John F. Kennedy, who rose up and said, let's not stand back. Let's not wait for a handout. Let's wait for a way out. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He said, don't us gravel and don't us moan, because God can smile on us. Let me say it. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me say it. And I saw a man come out. They call him the King of Soul, James Brown. And James Brown said, Reverend, don't you worry. I started out as a shoe shine boy. I started out as a convict. I started out uneducated. But I learned to sing my song. And I sung it all over the world. I told him it was a man's world. I told him about the big payback. I told him Papa got a brand new bag. And all over the world, they can hear my voice. But Reverend, don't you frown. Don't you bow your head. Tell him what you told me, Brother Brown. I said, now God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Yeah. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. It's been so good to me. Then I went home and I told my mother what Brown told me. And she said, son, even though we don't have much, we don't need relief, all we need is belief. And she said, he didn't tell you no lie, because the Lord will take care of you. God sits high, but He looks down low. And every time you get discouraged, every time you're burdened down, all you have for you and look toward the heavens. Lift your eyes to the hills and say, God, 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 smile on me. Now then the God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God has smiled on me. And that has been so good to me. Yes, he has. I say, God, smile on me. He has set me free. And I know all over the country, smile on me. We need jobs. We need a way to make it. We need help. We need jobs. We need a way to make some money to feed our families and raise our bread. We need a way to survive, so we don't need crime as a survival kit. We just need a little bit. But don't give the hope up. Don't lose the faith, because God will smile on you. God will give you the strength. God will make a way for you. Adam Great Power said, keep the faith. Keep the faith, baby. I hear Robert Kennedy saying that it's not the dream of, but it's the dream that'll live on forever. Just know that God will smile on you. Dr. King had a dream. Dr. King said, I went to the mountaintop, but I didn't stop there. I looked over and saw the promised land. I hear Brother Malcolm saying, don't sit on the stoop. Stand up and be a man. Respect yourself. Be somebody. Then I hear the brothers in the Hispanic community say, I'm going to stand up and be a man. I'm going to do the best I can. I had a reaper say, I don't care what time you come home, but just give me some respect when you get there. God has smiled on me. He has set me free. God smiled on me. You've been so good to me. Sit down. And as we move on in history, let us remember that if we look to God, God has the answer to all of our problems. God is still the same God he was years ago, and we can still make it. We can still hold on like Frederick Douglass did. We can still keep him on like Martin Luther King did. We can still ride on the way everyone that made it did. They didn't have much, but they had a whole lot of faith. They didn't have money, but they had a lot of determination. We know that God will look out for his children, that God will make a way out of no way if you just keep the faith and refuse to lose. And God will make a way, because God's children don't have color. God's children just have will. And I can still hear somewhere in my mind James Brown say, God has smiled on me. He has set me free. Let me sing here. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord. Yeah, Lord.
Thank you for joining us for Weekdays Live with Reverend Al Sharpton. Take the time to share this broadcast right now. Tell your friends it's time to keep it real with Reverend Al. Comment your questions now in the chat or call Reverend Al Sharpton directly on air at 877-532-5797. Now stay tuned for Reverend Al.
This is Reverend Al Sharpton. As you watch the broadcast, support National Action Network. Go to www.nationalactionnetwork.net and be involved. You can join, take your membership right online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. Getting ready to start the program, but we need you to be part of the movement.
Rev, you know you were right there
from the beginning
with the stuff that was going on in Brooklyn at that time, at Howard Beach. You were right there.
He had in one of the early movies, he had my name. Then he put me in Malcolm, but I wasn't even old enough to know Malcolm. So we've been through it all.
For those who see Malcolm X, it's 3 hours. But fast forward to the scene yourself.
Yep.
Bobby Seale.
Right. Bobby Seale, Denzel, and me.
Yeah.
Denzel was on the set.
Now, let me ask a question.
Yep.
What was your weight on that shit?
I probably about 270. I was bigger then.
Yeah.
Still had the hair back.
Yeah, you had the head on.
Yeah, it was
Denzel, so and Bobby Seale.
Yeah, all in one scene.
And also, there was no cut, so we went like this.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Only Spike could have done that.
It's my brother right here.
My baby.
Brooklyn's in the house.
Yes, sir.
Brooklyn's in the house.
BK.
It's an honor and a pleasure. Jennifer Jones Austin, Vice Chair of the National Action Network National Board and leader of the Federation of Welfare Organizations in New York. Always glad to be with you. I think we were talking to Todd. I heard Todd on the way. You weren't done with him. He was just rearing up. Am I right?
We were having a conversation. Todd was sharing with us in the calls just about, his thoughts about the San Diego mayor, who, has been pushing back and speaking about the federal overreach of the Trump administration and the impact that has not just on one locality, but localities across the country. Is that fair, Todd?
That's fair. That's fair.
And I agree with you.
Right. What motivates me in this conversation more than anything is that city is not just a high performer amongst the other cities in the country as far as quality of life because of government dollars. It's a high performer because of private citizen participation as it applies to civic engagement. And while the mayor was pointing out that he has 12,000 employees and he only has a $6 billion budget, which is not a lot in California, all things considered. It is the 8th biggest city in the country. I wanted to make sure that people understood that the stronger contributor to the quality of life there is the civic engagement of the private citizens, which is why I was like really grateful that the mayor of San Diego was on there. Now I exit because there's probably somebody behind me trying to get on air. I want to make a slight correction. Los Angeles didn't have 300 something murders last year. They were under 300, and they were only around 900 people that got shot, which is a little bit over 900 people that got shot, which is still a lot in Los Angeles. But when you consider those two cities are only 120 miles apart from one another, and they're both in the top 10, it's something to be pointed out to the federal government to say, you should be nurturing San Diego, not making it harder for them to do the hard job they have of maintaining their quality of life. And Donald Trump's administration is not doing that. That is all.
I think those are fair points.
That is all. I will talk with you next Thursday, Jennifer.
You don't have any disagreement on this one, my friend. Good to talk with you.
Always good to hear Todd. Always good to be on with Todd. Let's go to Jennifer. Let's go to North Carolina, line 4. Talk to Mike. Mike, you're keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You got Reverend Williams and Jennifer Jones Austin with you.
Hey Rev Williams and Jennifer. Good to talk to y'all. I don't get to call in much. I didn't get to listen to most of the show, but I know we're doing Black Music Month. My main comment that I wanted to drop is just that we, as Black people, especially older Black people, we got to watch what we say about younger people's music, because a lot of us don't know that there is good stuff out there. We only hear about the stuff that's bad. There's a lot of good people out there. There's people from an older generation that's putting out new music. MC Light had an album out last year. Common and Pete Rock did an album. It was awesome. Probably almost all the way positive. LL had a new album out. There's people from an older generation still putting out music, but you don't know that, then you don't know what's going on in music. The Christian hip hop scene is crazy. We have so many really, really good Christian artists. It's not like I'm in my early 50s. When I was growing up loving hip hop and being spiritually minded, I would try to listen to Christian hip hop, and it was just terrible. The guys just couldn't rap. Their heart was in the right place. But we got guys and girls and whole crews of people who are dynamic. KB, Lecrae, Indie Tribe, No Big Deal, Forrest Frank, my man D1, challenge anybody in mainstream hip hop. There's a lot of good stuff going on in music and hip hop, but it's just like your diet. If you don't go get the good food, you don't know where it is. You can't go to McDonald's and say you want to have a good diet. You got to go get this stuff. So I would just urge us that are a little bit older to not just put down what's going on in music. There's good people in music. The main thing is our radio stations, our OGs in the music game have let us down. Let's say somebody like, well, Diddy's definitely failed now, but any of these people that had a lot of loot, that had music companies, why didn't they have somebody on the label that was positive? You got room for somebody that's positive. Radio stations. Why do we get Sexy Red and Glorilla and stuff and not get Rhapsody, who is a female rapper who most people don't even know? If you listen to like the Wu-Tang Clan or any people, these dudes will tell you their favorite female rapper is Rhapsody, and she is almost exclusively positive with her messages. I think she won a Grammy recently, but she don't get no airplay. It doesn't make sense. So they'll try to tell us, well, the people don't want that. Well, if you never let us hear it, of course we don't know it's there. We don't, your kids will never want something they never tried, And so there's good stuff out there, but we got to make room for it. We got to go look for it. Us that actually care about good music, that actually care about what our kids are listening to. If you don't want to have a subscription to something, YouTube Music will let you listen to. Go find Lecrae. Go find KB. Go find Indie Tribe. Go find No Big Deal. Find these people that are doing good stuff and support them. You don't even cost you money to go on YouTube Music, but support these people that's doing positive things in our community for our people. D1 taught at Harvard, and he's a rapper. You know what I'm saying? He rich all on his own doing godly stuff, but most people don't know he exists. So we got to support these people that's doing it the right way.
All right, there's the music. We got to take a quick break, but when we get back, Jennifer and I will get the opportunity to respond. You can still be a part of this conversation. There's time left. 877-532-5797. I see Brother Rodney Jones out there on the social media. Good afternoon to you, my brother. We'll be right back right after this. Sharpton's Keeping It Real.
Keeping it real.
This is an important notice to all U.S. taxpayers. The IRS is giving away billions of dollars in tax savings through a federal program called the Fresh Start Initiative to aid delinquent taxpayers. This initiative was established for anyone facing financial hardship and unable to pay their back taxes. Qualifying and enrolling in this program will stop all collections, settle your delinquent tax problem, and even reduce what you owe by thousands of dollars. Call the hotline at People's Tax Relief to see if you qualify and get this free information by dialing 800-727-9105. If you have unfiled tax returns or cannot afford to pay your personal or business back taxes, you can now get the help you need. One simple phone call can resolve your tax problem and save you thousands of dollars. To see if you qualify and to get this important free information, call 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105. 800-727-9105.
You've watched her on screen and enjoyed her stand-up comedy, but now Tori Hart brings genuine conversation to your headphones. Brutally Honest with Tori Hart is the bold, unfiltered podcast you didn't know you needed. With raw discussions, hilarious moments, and powerful guests, no topic is off limits. The Brutally Honest podcast with Tori Hart is a must-listen. Catch Brutally Honest with Tori Hart, now streaming on urbanonepodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Book your cabin now for the 2025 Tom Joyner Fantastic Voyage and party with a purpose to raise funds for HBCUs. Sailing from New Orleans, October 19th through the 26th with live performances from Cat Williams, Neo, Mary, Tyrese, October London, a Southern Soul show, and more. Call 214-495-1963. That's 214-495-1963. Tell them where to log on, Snoop. FB2025.com.
Keeping it real. Keeping
Keeping It Real. You know who your host is. It's none other than the man himself, Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Charles Williams II, along with Jennifer Jones Austin. We're hanging out with you today. Want to remind all of you all, make sure, I heard Todd talking about Politics Nation. I heard many of you talking about Politics Nation. It's a great show. Make sure you check in with Reverend Al Sharpton every Saturday and Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Central, and 2 p.m. Pacific Time on MSNBC. You don't want to miss it. A lot of great stuff, a lot of stuff that happened this week. You get a chance to hear some of the things that, or some of the things from some of the folks that are part of the decision making of the things that are happening all week long. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you tune in to Politics Nation. Don't forget about the Saturday Action Rally and broadcast in Harlem, New York. That's 106 West 145th Street in the Village of Harlem. You can catch it every Saturday, 9 a.m. 106 West 145th Street, again in the Village of Harlem. You can catch it in person if you're having a family reunion, or you guys are going out of town, or going to visit New York, some shopping trip, whatever. Make sure you stop by the House of Justice. For those of you all across the nation, you can check it out on Impact Television, only African-American owned black television station in the country. As well, you can check it out online, www.nationalactionnetwork.net. For those of you all who are listening and you say, I got to get involved, I'm ready to get involved, make sure you sign up by going to nationalactionnetwork.net or call 877-626-4651, nationalactionnetwork.net, and get yourself ready to join us for the National March on Wall Street. August the 28th will be a historic day when thousands from across the country will gather to say DEI is here to stay. And by the way, we don't care about what letters you use, but we're going to be holding every single one of you accountable and making sure that you are holding up diversity and equity and inclusion in your companies. From Wall Street to Main Street to Yo Street. Make sure you're there on August the 28th. All right, Jennifer, did you want to respond to the last caller about the music? He's making a case, I think, that, hey, the music, we getting too hard on rap music. I don't have a problem with rap music. National Action Network, I know we don't have a problem with rap music. We've had many rappers and entertainers that have been a part of our demonstrations. But what we do have a problem with, and I don't think we've ever been shy about it in National Action Network, and Reverend Sharpton hasn't either, because we led the Decency Project, is misogyny and music that does more to downgrade our culture rather than to upgrade our culture. And I mean, outside of that, hey, let all the records roll.
That's spot on. You're spot on. We do not have a problem with rap. I don't have a problem with rap. I think, I think that when people speak about old school versus new school in terms of, and I'm just using those terms in terms of music, it's, that thinking that there's the old, but let me back up and say this. Let me start here. When disco came out, a lot of people had a problem with disco, right? And then it became popular. Now we see some of the resurgence of it. We see a lot of the sampling of it. It's the equivalent of when we talk about young people and where young people's heads are at. And, do young people have wisdom, right? But then the young people become the older people. And so I think it's less kind of musical, if you will. It's more kind of generation clashes, right? Mm-hmm. It's the equivalent when they say that, when young people say that old people need to get out of the way when it comes to leadership, when it comes to, frankly, sometimes they say when it comes to movement work. It's what has existed for a long time, right? It's these generational clashes. Yeah. And so I think you have to look at it in that greater context. And when you do look at it in that greater context, you understand and appreciate there's a lot to be learned. I think the problem that we do sometimes have with rap is that sometimes it is so laced with, and I'm not saying across the board, but in several instances, it is heavily laced with derogatory language. And so therefore it's what is often done to Black people on the whole. Like, the music can get cast in a negative light when there is some good, right? And I think that what he's saying is we gotta make sure that we understand and we embrace the good. I do not disagree.
Yeah. Let's grab a call here. Let's go to Chicago, line 2. Andre J. You're keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You got Reverend Williams, as well as Jennifer Jones Austin with you.
Good afternoon to you, Miss Jennifer Jones Austin. Good afternoon to you, Mr. Reverend Williams. Don't feel bad, Mr. Williams. Well, I'm old school. I believe ladies first, so I had to speak to Miss Austin first.
It's all good. I'm old school.
So my question for the younger generation is this here, and Miss Austin, I got a legal comment for you too. But my question to the younger generation, this guy that last caller talked about that music, to me, all he mentioned was hip hop and rap music, but he never mentioned nothing about the romantic scene. So for me and probably people in our age group, if we wanted to sit down and be romantic, we probably gonna listen to some Barry White, some Teddy Pendergrass, some Lionel Richie, some stuff like that. I want to know, what do the young generation listen to when they want to be romantic? Because I haven't heard nothing. Everything I hear is upbeat and fast-paced and whatnot. And so when I want to hear some good music, I have to go back in the years and get some good music that I want to listen to. Even when it comes to jazz, I have to go back and listen to some Miles Davis and some of those guys back in the day, and Ahmad Jamal and stuff like that. So that young generation, I don't know what they listen to when they want to get in the mood. Maybe one of them can answer that question. The legal question that I wanted today, Ms. Austin, is can you clarify or either identify the difference between when a person get caught with a real gun and when they get caught with a toy gun? We've had some instances in the past where the police rolled down on some of these kids that had toy guns. I don't know if it was Tamir Rice or whoever it was, and they got shot and killed. So if you committed a crime using a toy gun, would the same law apply as if you had used a real gun? And do you think they should outlaw toy guns?
So let me first say that sometimes what happens when you get young people who, why should I even say young people? When somebody has a toy gun and you are using it like a real gun, the challenge is, as you just said, you can actually find yourself in a situation with law enforcement where they mistake it for a real gun. Your life may be taken. Now, the police officers themselves, they will be hard pressed, or you'll find that they will not be prosecuted very often if it looks like somebody is pointing at them or is engaged in some activity where they're presenting a toy gun as a real gun. And so that's the thing you first got to keep in mind. Do you get what I'm saying there? That, if a police officer takes action against you because it looks like you are pointing a gun towards them and they have every reason to believe that it is a toy gun. I mean, a real gun, but it's a toy gun. If they believe it's a real gun, even though it's a toy gun, you're going to be charged with criminal charges, especially if it's used to threaten or intimidate somebody. Because what you're doing is it's kind of like you're using it in the commission of a crime. If it's not a real firearm, but it can be mistaken for one, you can be charged with that. Now, if you're holding a toy gun and you're just holding it and you walk around with it, they can't really charge you for that. But the minute you take a toy gun and you try to use it and present it like it's a real gun, you're going to be charged with a crime.
Yeah. It's definitely a challenge. Let's see if we can grab a couple more before we get out of here. Let's go to Michigan, line 3, China. China, you're keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton. You got. Let's go to Philly then. WURD, line 1, Lola. You're keeping it real with Reverend Al Sharpton, Reverend Williams, and Jennifer Jones Austin.
Yes, thank you. Attorney Jennifer John Austin and Reverend Williams, for getting me on. I just wanted to say I didn't really want to talk about music, but I will say this about what the last caller said. We had a case here in Philadelphia where a young boy shot at a police, and the police feared for his life, but he was black, the cop, and the young boy was white. And the officer's in jail now for 8 years, and the family just got $3 million. He had a gun, shot out the window, all of that. You can look it up if you want to. I think his name was Cedero, T.J. Cedero. So it happens when black officers say that they are afraid for their lives, they go to jail, because it also happened for another officer. I think it was in Colorado. He was in the alley, and the white woman came out with a gun or something. He was afraid for his life.
Did we lose her?
They're afraid they might shoot. They go to jail. But when the other ones, white ones, say they're afraid, they don't go to jail. But what I was calling about, I wanted to say this, that we have to keep our eyes on the prize. They're still trying to push that big, ugly bill forward by July the 4th, while they're talking about a fake war.
That's right.
Trump does this. He puts stuff in like this chaos. He puts stuff in front of us so we can take eyes off the ball, while he ain't hit nothing or do nothing. He might have had some type of agreement with them. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, because he's paid for play. And now they're still trying to push that bill through July the 4th that will wreck millions and millions and millions and millions of people's lives. I hear the music. Thank you.
Thank you, and that is the music. Thank you so very much, Jennifer Jones Austin. Thank you for your
Thank you.
Your work and your time and your energy that you put into moving God's people forward. We much appreciate you. Thank you, Jennifer.
I appreciate you.
I want to thank the executive producer, Fatim Muhammad. I want to thank DJ Field on the knobs and buttons. More importantly, I want to thank all of you who called in. Some who called in and couldn't get through. Keep calling in anyhow. I want to thank the Reverend Al Sharpton for the grand opportunity to sit in the big chair behind the golden microphone. I hid the microphone for those of you online. Remember, whatever you do, wherever you go, however you feel, tell somebody that the Reverend Al Sharpton wants you to know personally. Keep it real. Keep it real. Keep it real. Talk to you tomorrow.
Keeping it real.
Breaking news. The issues, the stories affecting you. Now here's the news from News1.com.
It's Sybil Wilkes with what we need to know. President Trump is rallying support for what he has called his big, beautiful bill, the sweeping spending measure scheduled for a Senate vote soon. The bill already passed in the House, but faces hurdles in the Senate, where Republicans can only afford 3 defections. Democrats argue the proposal guts Medicaid and other vital programs. The GOP calls it necessary reform to rein in federal deficits. The president is scheduled to host a press event Thursday afternoon at the White House. CIA Director John Ratcliffe said U.S. airstrikes severely damaged Iran's nuclear infrastructure. In a statement posted to social media, Ratcliffe claimed the CIA verified that key nuclear sites were destroyed and could take years to rebuild. The comments support President Trump's claims of total obliteration from the strikes, despite Pentagon sources suggesting a much shorter delay in Iran's nuclear capability. In New York City, Zohran Mamdani declared victory in the Democratic mayoral primary. The Democratic Socialist says his campaign focused on economic inequality and housing affordability, and it resonated with voters. Mamdani said it's a model Democrats across the nation should consider. He's likely to face Mayor Eric Adams in November, but former Governor Andrew Cuomo could shake things up if he runs as an independent after conceding the primary Tuesday night. Sources are said to be split on whether he will or he won't. Mississippi's longest-serving death row inmate has been executed. 79-year-old Richard Jordan was put to death by lethal injection Wednesday after spending nearly 5 decades on death row. He was convicted of kidnapping and killing a woman in 1976. Jordan was a Vietnam veteran, and his case drew attention for the length of his incarceration. To subscribe to my free daily newsletter, please visit SybilWilkes.com. For all the news 24/7, go to News1.com. I'm Sybil Wilkes. Be informed, be empowered.
If you need up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. WeFixMoney.com is the name you can trust. It's free to use, available 24/7, and you are never required to accept any loan offer. Some lenders offer same-day funding. If you need up to $3,000, type WeFixMoney.com directly into your browser. WeFixMoney.com has been helping customers for 15 years and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. So, if you need cash for credit card bills, car repairs, child care, or anything else, go to WeFixMoney.com. Make sure you type WeFixMoney.com directly in your browser. Go to the company you trust, WeFixMoney.com. Just fill in the information and get an answer in minutes at WeFixMoney.com. For up to $3,000, go to WeFixMoney.com. That's WeFixMoney.com.
Get your cabin now and get ready to set sail on the 2025 Tom Joyner Fantastic Voyage. 7 days at sea with non-stop performances from Cat Williams.
Oh, yes.
Neo.
Yes.
And back together again on stage, Mary Mary. Tyrese. October London, a Southern Soul Show, and much, much more. Plus non-stop parties day and night, live podcasts, and the 20th anniversary of 106 & Park with AJ and Free on the boat. We're sailing from New Orleans October 19th through the 26th with stops in Mahogany Bay, Cozumel, and Belize. So let's party with a purpose and raise money for HBCUs. Book your cabin now. Call 214-495-1963. That's 214-495-1963. Or visit fv2025.com for all the details.